I have terrible news for everybody. Well, this is terrible news for me. And if you care about my feelings, I hope you'll leave a like on this video to give me a virtual pat on the back and tell me it's going to be okay. It looks like, at least according to some new cryptic messaging from Brie Larson, is that Marvel is done with her and done with Captain Marvel. I don't know what to say. Brie Larson's various meltdowns during the initial Captain Marvel press tour were one of the biggest growth periods of my life, other than the growth spurt I experienced between 5th and 6th grade, which was so quick that I remember my legs hurting. Now it's all over. How did we get here? How did we possibly get here? The Marvel star Brie Larson shares a blunt response when asked about her future as Captain Marvel. With a so-so 62% on Rotten Tomatoes and a mere 206.1 million at the worldwide box office, the Marvels failed to live up to expectations last November, and now Marvel Studios' lowest grossing movie in history. I always knew this was going to happen. I remember, it was one of the things that the people, like the woke crowd, would always accuse me of not giving her flowers for the Marvels Captain Marvel making $1 billion. I always knew that film would make an immense amount of money at the box office, given that was the height of the superhero craze. You can look at a movie like Aquaman, which in its own right is a fine movie, but by no stretch of the imagination should have made over $1 billion, but it did. You can make the exact same argument for Captain Marvel. A fine movie, a fine girl power movie that wasn't inherently the worst thing I'd ever seen. Far better when compared to the Marvels, far better than the Marvels. But that movie had no right to make $1 billion either. It's still hard to say what all went wrong. Well, I told you, I knew this movie was going to tank. Everybody knew this movie was going to tank. There is a general malaise around superhero movies. Do I think Deadpool will do okay? Yes. I don't think it'll make anywhere near $1 billion. 600 to 700 million would probably be pretty good. I could be wrong about that. I'm wrong all the time, but I think it will do well, but it's not going to make $1 billion. Although Wolverine coming back, Hugh Jackman coming back, that is a thing. Anyway, Captain Marvel grossed over $1 billion in 2019, and both Miss Marvel and Photon have taken center stage in 2 critically acclaimed Disney Plus shows. Well, let me stop you right there, comicbookmovie.com. Critics like a lot of terrible things. Every time I'm looking to watch a movie and I bring up, I pull up Rotten Tomatoes and I sort by reviews, critics are giving all sorts of trash 90 to 100%. If you think just because the critics liked it, it was supposed to be a box office smash, well, you must be a movie critic. We can all take guesses, of course. Captain Marvel probably should have been somewhere in the title, yes. While the marketing campaign definitely underwhelmed, as for the movie itself, the story felt too small in scale and ultimately wasn't the sort of massive event which gets people into the theaters these days. So what do you mean it's hard to tell? Bad title, bad movie. Carol Danvers' actress Brie Larson spent years fending off sexist trolls online and seems to have grown disillusioned with the space in the MCU. Last year, comments of the Oscar winner wondering whether or not anyone wanted her back as Captain Marvel quickly went viral. Appearing at the SAG Awards over the weekend, Larson was asked what she can say about her Marvel future, and her response was quick and to the point. I don't have anything to say about that. Zoinks. She says at the end of the video, doing the rounds to promote. Now, this is the other quote. This one is perhaps more concerning. Doing the rounds to promote the Marvels, Larson was asked a similar question and said, quote, I don't want Marvel to come after me, but there is definitely something to answer your question that I would want to say, but I'm not going to. Has something changed since? It's hard to speculate. Particularly, the Marvels underperformed drastically. It's also no secret that the movie was a victim of extensive changes during refilming and post-production. So what? Make a better movie up front then, you know? We'd expected Captain Marvel to be a huge part of the next Avengers movies, especially with Monica Rambeau that nobody cares about trapped in the X-Men universe. With Destin Daniel Cretton no longer helming the Avengers, the Kang Dynasty, and Michael Walden rewriting the script, a lot might have changed. The Marvels' Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, have reclaimed her identity from the tyrannical Kree and revenge on supreme intelligence, but unintended consequences see Carol shouldering the burden of a destabilized universe. With her duties, blah, 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 blah. Movie stars Brie Larson, Teyana Paris, Iman Vellani, Samuel L. Jackson. Nobody cares about any of these people anymore. Samuel L. Jackson is like, you know, he's just a meme now. You see pure speculation of her being disillusioned. There's nothing substantial to back that up. They just haven't told her where Carol goes next. Until then, they figured the next stories post Deadpool and Wolverine. She looked amazing. If they use actual competent writers instead of Disney's social justice activist writers, Captain Marvel would have actually been epic. It had all the ingredients. An intergalactic war between two alien species. We barely got any of that. Perception is reality. You know, that's ultimately it. Brie is a talent and should have been treated that way. Can't lie. The way no one from Marvel defended her, that's a lie. Tons of people did. And Naya in public during these last few months have been bogus. I'm not sure what you would be defending her from. As far as I know, you know, you could correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But there was really no Brie Larson hate this time around. Like, there really wasn't. What's really hamstrung these movies more than anything is their insanely high budgets. You can see Marvel and DC need to take some notes. Dune 2 has an insanely high production budget, but it's still less than the MCU's biggest flop, The Marvels. And by the way, that movie had like $100 million in tax credits or something like that. The Marvels only grossed $206 million from theaters, the lowest for an MCU movie, and could not recoup its production budget. Interestingly, Dune 2's budget is more than the production budget of Dune 1, which had a production budget of $165 million. The insane production budget of Dune 2 is still lower than the Marvels. Where did all that money go? You know, where did all that money go? $190 million for Dune 2. By the way, Dune got kind of screwed. It didn't. I don't think Dune made its money back, did it? The original Dune? I don't think it did amazing at the box office. The Marvels was over $270 million. Over $270 million. I mean, I think that ultimately, after basically having the Marvels is officially the lowest grossing MCU movie in history, and probably will always maintain that title, almost certainly. It's difficult to know exactly where this is going to go. You see various combinations of factors affecting the successes of the Marvels. The reception was mostly mixed, meaning that even among critics, the views on whether or not the movie was good or not in the first place was vastly polarizing. Many fans outright stated the effects of the superhero fatigue are to blame, and the fact that the writing quality has decreased severely from MCU's golden days. In an unprecedented decision, even Bob Iger commented on the bomb of the century, admitting that the studio needs to focus on quality over quantity. And soon after that statement, it was revealed that they would be rebooting the MCU. I mean, they're going back to male focus now. Because that's, who was paying to see him in the first place. They tried desperately to make it a girl boss world, and that's fine. The girls that were interested in that came out. Instead of making them girl bosses, though, they just made women like men instead of making women unique. It's wild to me. It says here that MCU's golden days, an unprecedented decision. Iger commented on it, on the focus on quality. And then soon after that statement, it was revealed that Deadpool and Wolverine would be the only movie to be released in 2024 in an attempt to revitalize the interest and the franchise. But how did Brie react to all that during the 2024 Screen Actors Guild Awards? She was asked, and she answered with grace and realistically, quote, "I think there's still much inside of Carol. I feel like getting to be in on this team just cracked her open in a way that she hadn't been. I really loved that for her. I just loved her letting the shoulders drop a little bit and not needing to feel all the responsibility was on her. So I think there is so much more to go. However, now that The Marvels has flopped, her performance wasn't all that commented, with fans and mostly recognizing that the whole movie was the issue, as the story, villain, setting, and overall experience were subpar. Meanwhile, Miss Marvel did set herself up for a future in the MCU, and nobody cares about Miss Marvel either. Like, it's just like, a tiny group of people. That's who Miss Marvel's for. And that's fine. She can exist. I mean, obviously, she can exist. But, I think this is probably the end of the MCU. Almost certainly. Either that or they go vastly smaller budget, which is also a fine solution. An absolutely fine solution. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.